Good evening, everyone. So we are here once again. This is our second Monday of the month. And usually on the second Monday of the month, we do our talks in English. It's once a month. So I I hope everybody can take this as an opportunity to train our English, to know a little bit more of our vocabulary, of Spiritist and Christian vocabulary in English, which is uh, which is good for us since we are living in a English-speaking country. So it helps us at least a little bit to understand better our lives outside of the Spiritist Center. We've been doing this for. You have to go back and check dates and so on. But as of right now, as I said last month, we're about to finish this book, Our Daily Bread. And this book has 180 messages. We are on message 176. So we have 4 messages to go to finish this book. And this is the only book that we've been reading from the beginning of the very first day. So if the first year we did once every 2 months, so there were only 6 uh, talks for the first year. After that, we decided to go every month. So it's been almost 180 months reading this book, and we're about to finish. So that's it's actually more than 10 years doing this. So I think we're in good shape of continuing doing this. So usually our meetings is this follow the same path or the same organization of the Portuguese meetings, which we do an initial prayer, then we read a message from a book, which is Our Daily Bread, and then after we call a person that's going to give us the talk. And tonight we have the pleasure of having Lucas once again here to talk to us. Um, after a few years of me being basically the only one here and tiring everybody, now we have Lucas for a while already coming here and giving a talk, which is very refreshing and very good. So let's do our initial prayer, and then I'm going to make a read and give a little explanation of the message, and we can close our eyes if we want to. The ones who are at home, if there's anyone watching us live or later, if you want to close your eyes so that we can focus, move ourselves and our minds inward so that we can feel ourselves, but also put our minds onto God and onto the good spirits, inviting them to help us, inviting them to stay with us at this moment, to give us their blessings, so that we can, while listening to the gospel, while listening to the good message, that we can not only understand with our minds, but that with their help, we can deepen our understanding and feel the message within ourselves so that we can get transformed by the message, so that when we are out there living our lives, we can finally call ourselves true Christians, not only because we are coming to a Spiritist center, to a church, to a temple, but because we are actually following Jesus's lead, Jesus's model, and Jesus's love for all of us by doing as he did, loving every single one. that we meet in our lives. So, Jesus, thank you for your blessings. Thank you for your love. Protect us and give us your peace now and always. So be it. So, as I was saying, we are going to read a message from the book Our Daily Bread, written by the Spirit Emmanuel, psychographed by the medium Chico Xavier, Francisco Cândido Xavier. Um, and the message is numbered 176 and is titled In the Revelation of Life. And Emmanuel usually gets a small piece from the New Testament, and then he copies it from the New Testament, and then he writes a message about it. And this time he got a message, a verse from the Acts of the Apostles, chapter number 4, verse number 33, in where Lucas, not the one that's going to speak to us tonight, the other Lucas from the New Testament, he wrote, "And with great power the apostles bore witness to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and amongst all of them there was abundant grace." And Emmanuel makes the following comment. The direct companions of the Divine Master did not establish the work of the Christian community upon crystallized, inflexible principles. They cultivated order, hierarchy, and discipline, but they also assisted the spirit of the people by distributing the goods of spiritual revelation according to the receptive ability of each one of the aspirants to the new faith. At present, to use the name of the Christian faith to deny the authenticity of the Spiritist endeavor is evidence of either ignorance or thoughtlessness. The Lord's disciples understood the importance of the certainty of life after death in order to triumph in the moral life. They themselves were radically transformed after the resurrection of their heavenly friend upon realizing that love and justice govern the individual in the afterlife. For this very reason, they attracted new followers, transmitting to them their conviction that the Master continued to live and work beyond the tomb. Consequently, the apostolic ministry was not divided solely into discussing the intellectual problems of the faith and involving itself in worshipful praise. With great power, Christ's followers bore witness to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus. And because of the love with which they devoted themselves to the work of salvation, amongst them there was abundant grace. Evangelical Spiritism has set in motion the divine work, which entails not only consoling faith, but also the indisputable knowledge of immortality. Dogmatic Christian denominations will continue holding to articles of inoperative faith, thereby freezing their minds in absurd affirmations. However, in its redemptive activities, Christian Spiritism has come to restore the teaching of the resurrection of the individual, a teaching consecrated by the Divine Master, who returned from the shadows of death personally in order to extol the continuity of life. Spiritism, some people who are, and that's what Emmanuel brings to us here, Some people that are from other Christian denominations, be it Catholic, be it Protestant, sometimes they think of Spiritism, or some of them think that Spiritism is not a Christian religion. They think that's something else. And one of the reasons why is because of the belief, I wouldn't say belief, but the certainty that Spiritism shows about us having a future life, about us not having only one life, about us being what we call reincarnationists, being we were here before, we died, we reincarnate, we live again, we die, and then we reincarnate and we live again. Therefore, our belief or our understanding of life is that we live to progress, we live to get better, we live to improve. Jesus tells us to be perfect as God, our Father, have our Heavenly Father, be perfect like He is, like God is. How can we be perfect in one life only? Being here for only 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years. How can we get to that perfection of God if we live only one single existence, only one life? So, um, how come Jesus is so perfect as to be close to God if he only lived? How many times has he lived? He lived only one life, 33 years. And then, so um, what Emmanuel is trying to bring us here is so that we can, and he points it out that that group of disciples, those first ones that were there, and not only them, but a lot of the other Jews around, people that lived around Jesus and then followed Judaism at the time, they had the certainty that their lives was not just at that moment, that they would live again, that they already have that had that belief. But he points out that after Jesus died, Jesus came back to them. He resurrected and he came to them and he said, and he showed them that, hey, life goes on, life continues. You have to understand that whatever you do here, it will be reflected later on your own life. And what Emmanuel points out at the end, and I highly recommend the reading, although I always say this, but it is very interesting the way he says. And if you cannot like completely understand the English, but get the book, get Our Daily Bread, and read the message 176, uh, because it says, Emmanuel explains that once they realized that whatever they did with their lives was going to be reflected on their future lives, they changed the way that they lived their own lives, because now you feel the responsibility and you feel the power that this gives you to really show that, hey, this is just temporary. Anything that you're going through, anything bad that's happening to you right now, just keep going and keep going, because this will be rewarded at one point. We fight and we struggle not to suffer that much, and we need to do that. But if we have to go through something, go through something, because in the end, Jesus is going to be there. The same way that he was able to come back from the dead, we are going to come back from the dead, because we cannot die. And that's basically what he says here. When Jesus died, he came back to say to us, to all of us, hey, there is no death. Keep going. We have to keep going. We should be going, because love awaits for us um, at the end. And if it's not love that we found at the end, it's because we're still not at the end. We still have ways to go. So we will meet love at the end. If we didn't find it yet, keep going. We will find love. And it's not love about men and woman, woman and woman, men and men. No, it's not that kind of love. Is love with a capital L, independently of where we are, what we are, where we will be. It's what we awaits for us in the end. So, message 176 in the revelation of life from the book Our Daily Bread. And with this, let's invite Lucas for um, his message for tonight.
Good evening, everyone. For those who haven't met or haven't seen yet, um, so last month, like Mackenzie said, once a month we do this talk in English. Last month, Flavio was here, right? And he talked about you cannot love God and mammon. I think that was the title of the um, his talk. So that's actually, we were talking about the chapter 16 of the gospel called according to Spiritism. Um, Item 3 today. But overall, that's what it talks about, right? You can have, love God and money at the same time, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. And I think that, like Mackenzie said, he gave me this challenge a long time ago to start speaking in English. And I was very well. I still am, but I was a lot more back then because I didn't know I could speak English, communicate, but speaking about Spiritism and Jesus, it's not something that we do, right? Very every day. So it's important that we come here also for these English lectures or talks, so we can familiarize ourselves and talk to our family who speak English, right, and others, and introduce them to Jesus. Through our point of view. And it's funny because I was talking about to my friend. Yeah, I went to visit my friend about 3 weeks ago, and I walked into her house, and she was talking to someone, Ludmila, and she was talking to someone about, like, I don't know how people can speak about spiritism in English. I'm like, well, I do now. And it was funny. Chris like, you do it? I'm like, yes, like it doesn't like I can't understand it because I feel spiritism, but you need to practice, right? And it's like that with everything in life, including love. Like Mackenzie said, we need to practice love with capital L. All right, so let's get started. So we are talking about something that I think nowadays is very important for us to talk about, right? Especially here in the US, right? We're talking about money and, having power, basically the balance between that and our souls, about love, right? So we need to reflect a lot about our values and the way we live here in the US, because most of us came here for that reason, I guess, right? We came after a better life, financially speaking, most of us, right? We came here after money. So, but I think we all, or most of us, lose control somehow once we get here, right? Money's good. Spiritism doesn't condemn it, right? And we're not here to judge money. We're here to talk about what is should be our priority. Um, so, like I said, um, I'm gonna start by talking about something I decided to when I was thinking about capitalism in the U.S. and everything that we are going through. I remember Karl Marx, the philosopher. I, he came to my mind, and this was today. I had this ready, and it was like, I should introduce a little bit more. And then Karl Marx came to my mind, and I took a couple of messages from him of his sayings to bring to us. So the production, one of them is the production of too many useful things results in too many useless people. Very strong. Yes. When I read that, I was like, okay, I'm useless then because I am part of this too, right? Um, we become so obsessed with producing, accumulating things, and here in the US is so interesting because you go to even a CVS and Walmart, and you find um, something to cut every single tool to cut every single vegetable, a different tool, right? Useful things. In reality, all we need is a knife, right? And the other day, it's funny because at work, someone brought up a mango over. They're like, "Oh, this lady, the American, she's American. She's like, I love mango." Like, "Oh, me too." She was like, "Whoa, do you want one? I have extras." I was like, "Yeah, give it to me." And I bit into it, like we do in Brazil. She was like, "What are you doing? You have to cut it." I'm like, "No, this is my tool." This is what's useful. So it depending on how you look at it, many useful things. You have a tool to cut, to peel, another one to slice, right? Make people useless. And that's basically what Karl Marx said here, right? We become obsessed with producing and accumulating material goods, and people risk become instruments of wealth, right? Well, why am I gonna do this since I can buy it? I can just buy this, right? Rather than subjects of love, dignity, and freedom, right? Into changing values. Um, and he exposed the Marx also exposed the consequences of unrestrained materialism, right? Systems that concentrate wealth in the hands of a few. We see that these days very heavily. Um, and reduce human beings to economic functions. So there are some who have a lot of power, and the others are just we hear this a lot at workplaces. Oh, I'm just a number here, right? And this reminds me, I have a lot of small stories about like for today, but it reminds me of podcast I listened to while in Brazil a long time ago, where a sociologist was being going to be interviewed. So they always start, "Oh, tell me about yourself," and she started talking about her and her family. And people are like, "Okay, but you're here to talk about your work." She was like, "No, but first of all, I am a person. I have feelings. I have a family, and that's what I really am and I want to be." Right? I don't want to be another number. I just don't want to be a sociologist. No, I'm that. So first, I am a human being with feelings and everything. So I thought it was very interesting. So next time people asks us to introduce ourselves, "Oh, tell me about you." Unless if you're in an interview, then you talk about that. But otherwise, you talk about yourself, what you like to do. You don't, right? We are not just a number. We are spirits. Spiritism shows us that we are spirits, and we are here to be happy, to grow, and to become better, right? Um, now, as we know, Spiritism does not take a political position, but it echoes the moral from a spiritual angle, right? Allan Kardec alerts us of the spiritual danger of avarice, right? The attachment to earthly goods is a sign of a spiritual inferiority. So we all know that the more attached we are to material beings and everything, which is what we are now, where we are, um, the less evolved, more inferior we are as the spirits, right? Uh, like I said, wealth is not condemned. Having money is not a problem, right? What is dangerous is when money becomes our God. That's all we go after in life, right? That's the problem. And then our heart, instead of loving, it becomes hardened. right? So that's what we need to think about. So both of them, Kardec and Marx, from different points of view, um, they show us that um, basically this is an illusion, right? Happiness um, comes from accumulation. That is an illusion, right? Happiness does not come from accumulating things. That values come from possession. That is not true, right? Our values are something completely different. Security comes from hoarding, right? Accumulating again, right? And I'm gonna tell another story about this. I had a friend long time ago when I arrived in the U.S. I met this guy. He married my friend, and he once told me a story about how he keeps underneath his bed like bottles of water, canned meat, canned goods like corn. I'm like, what if something happens? Like, no, I'm scared for my life and my family. Well, what if there's an apocalypse? I'm like, well, we're all gonna die if something happens. Like, how long can you survive for? Right? And at the same time, if you think about it, same thing during the pandemics. People were going and buying all the toilet papers, right? When they didn't have that, we're gonna buy all the paper towels. Just because, what about the other person, right? That's behind you. Someone is going to not have enough, right? While you have 10, 15 for yourself. So having security, that's an illusion, right? That type of security that you having by accumulating, hoarding things, it's an illusion, right? But spiritism goes a little further, um, and teaches us that liberation doesn't come from overthrowing systems, but for transforming ourselves from within, right? We always talk about this. We Spiritism shows us that we don't need to own things for us to evolve, or we need to be morally good people, um, and we need to transform ourselves, right? Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew said something very powerful, which is the title of this chapter. No one can serve two masters. You cannot serve both God and mammon, right? You cannot have those two gods, money and Jesus, and God. So again, Spiritism does not condemn wealth, right? But it invites us to learn how to use it wisely, right? With love. So, what is avarice, right? That's the title of today's item. Um, so, avarice is attachment, obsession, basically from the dictionary, and fear of loss. It makes the person value possessions more than people, which is what we talked about, right? Now we shifted a little bit from just talking about loving God merely. Now, if we took a step back, we are talking about loving people, right? So we're not talking because sometimes when you talk about love, we're like, well, but I love God, right? But love the other. I think, loving God, I think we still don't have a clear understanding here on earth of what God is, and Spiritism brought that to us, but it's still hard for us to understand. Chico Xavier once said that he went with Emmanuel. Emmanuel took him to try to understand God, and he was like, no, I need to go back. I can't do this. So for us, when we say we know God, do we really know God? No, we're getting there. I want to believe we're progressing and getting there. Um, but let's just talk about people, right? Loving money, love your possessions more than people, and that we see happening all the time, right, around us, and we do it too, right? We have to, and as I was studying this, I realized that I do a lot of the things that I talked here. Um, and sometimes we don't do it consciously, we just do it, right? It's part of our lives. Um, it's the soul that says, "I am only safe if I have more. I I am only someone if I possess." Um, if that's then that's exactly what I was thinking when on our daily lives we don't verbalize this, I think, right? That I am only safe if I have more, and that I'm only someone if I possess. But we do feel valued, and we all like to have a nice car, very nice car, and we like to show it to people. We have nice clothes, nice bags, and we like to show it to people. We like to go out. We like when we receive compliments about those things, right? Because we still um, only feel that we are someone if we possess these things. This is how much we are still practicing this. And these were things that as I was reading, I was like, I still do this, right? This is for me. And something that we need to learn and improve. Any Spiritism teaches us we're immortal spirits on a journey of learning, right? Earth is our temporary school. And we talk about that all the time, like Mackenzie said, right? We are here for a short period of time. We believe that we have probably been here before and will be a couple more times, but we don't need to rush on some things. And material goods um, are tools, not goals. So they're tools for us to evolve. And yes, like if we think about everything that we have these days, technology, money, and everything is here because God allowed it to be here, right? It's not bad. It's not bad. Again, we just have to learn how to use it, right? Um, and there is a parable of the rich fool. It's in Luke. And a man stored wealth in barns, saying, "Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." And God said to him, "You fool, this very night your soul will be demanded of you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself?" Basically, what he's saying is like, you're here accumulating money. Are you saving all your money, not enjoying life and not being happy and everything? Who's going to do what's going to happen? It's like in this case, like you're going to die tonight. God told him like, and all of your money, who's going to use it? Right? It's something like Brazilian mothers love to say, right? I would say, and Fabrizio said something in Portuguese all the time. That's basically the same thing. But it's truth, right? We have to use our money wisely. Again, we have money. We earn it. It's ours, yes, but the balance between that and love, we need to find. And Kardec also warns us the miser who has gold hidden away in a chest and who dares not to use it either for himself or for others is punished by the privation of he imposes on himself. This is a spiritual misery. Um, when someone has everything and lives in fear, isolation, and anxiety. And when I said that this applies to me a lot of times, so Fabricio will remember that like about a year and a half ago, I was so worried about money every day. Oh my God. Yes, like he I learned so much from him because he would tell me like it's fine, we're okay. I'm like, but no, I was so insecure, anxious, like all the time, like every single day. I had insomnia, right? I couldn't sleep. Yeah, because it was so yeah, it's true. And this is what I'm saying. This applies to all of us because we are worried about money. That becomes our God, and we want things, and that's our purpose in life and everything. So thank God I'm no longer like, well, not 100% anymore. I've gotten better. Thanks to Spiritism. Um, it's similar to someone who has a beautiful car, right? Like, so we're talking about having money and how do we use it. Someone has a beautiful car, or let's change, not use a car examples as example. um China, right? In Brazil, people save the china and like in the cabinets, the plate, the dishes, forks, only for guests. Sometimes very special guests only, right? And stays there and dusts and everything, or a person dies and again didn't get used. Yes, your grandmother, right? She never uses it. So, um, same thing is with our money, right? We keep it to ourselves for nothing, stays in the bank, and then we die. We didn't take anything. We didn't take any experience because we didn't travel. We could have traveled. We could have helped people, and God only those who really like help know how much it is, how, the good it does to us, right? I don't remember if it's chapter 12 or 11 that talks about charity. Do you remember, Mackenzie? But we just talked about like a couple of months ago. We were here talking about charity for like 4 or 5 months, um, and y- one of those days I talked about the good it does to our brain and the effect it has on changing habits when you do good to people, to others. So you have a bad habit, you eat too much, you drink too much. By helping others, you can actually change that habit. You can even start going to the gym if you want, by just by helping other people, because it does activate in our brains. And this is science. It has been proved that by doing good, things change in our brains. The chemistry changes, and we can actually change our habits. Um, so it's the same way we accumulate everything. We could have helped people, right? But we didn't. Money's for ourselves, it's for the bank. And so it's it brings us to think, right? And a question for everyone to think tonight is, when was the last time that you shared something that cost you comfort? Um, and by saying that, it's like, when did you take something from you that you're like, well, okay, this is for my own pleasure to help someone else? I don't remember when was the last time I did that, being very honest, because we are still selfish spirits, which is fine. We're evolving still, right? We're here to learn, but I do remember one person who did this, and it was my mom. And I learned. I think I've said this in Portuguese a couple of times, and I learned it from her. Should start practicing now. But my mom, growing up, we had money, but we didn't have a lot of it. So, um, but she was the principal of the only school in the city, so she was well known in the city, and um, a lot of people would come knock on our doors asking for food. Very small town. Um, and my mom, many times, she was like, she would write a note, like, go to the store, give it to them. They're going to it was probably just like a bag of rice, bag of beans, basic stuff. Sometimes she didn't have money to buy it at the store, so she would go to our kitchen and would take it from whatever we had there and give it to people. So that's exactly what he's saying here, right? When was the like she was not, she loved money. I'm pretty sure she liked it. We all know it. She every time she saw $100 bill, she would like smile in happiness. The money, she got her direct deposit once a month in Brazil. She was extremely happy with that. But she did not measure, there was no effort when helping others. She would take from hers. Didn't care how she was going to feed us. She was like, I'll find a way, it's fine. So I haven't done something like that. I don't remember, but um I learned from her. And no, I haven't done it to this level, but I've helped people. I help people. And little by little we learn to be better. um again, spiritism, going back, is not a sin. Wealth is not a sin according to spiritism. It's just a test. We speak about that a lot of times, and some people even say the other day, we were talking about poverty, right? And the lady screamed. I remember she was sitting there. She was like, "Well, I don't want to be poor again. I don't like being poor," because do you remember? Fabrizio probably remembers that, the lady, just she. And then Adriana was actually speaking here, and she was like, "Well, there was someone in Haiti once after the hurricane and everything. She was, um, the person was eating basically a rock, a dry piece of rock." And she was like, that's poverty, right? That's not what you go through is not poverty. And Flavio, when he was here last month, he showed us a graph. He proved us that we are not poor, right? We are wealthy compared to everyone else in the world. We are very rich, very rich. Even if you get like paid minimum wage in Massachusetts or another state that you get $10 an hour, you're wealthy. In order for you to be poor, you'd probably need to get like $1 less, right? A day. And we get a lot more than that, 100, 200 a day. So we are rich. Um, so Kardec, on the same chapter, but going a little bit further, in item 9, says that if wealth were an obstacle to salvation, as some have tried to make it out to be, God, who dispenses it, would have placed a trap in our path. But such is not the case. Wealth is a powerful means of testing. Um, so yeah, some even say that it is one of the hardest tests that someone can take here on earth, right? Reincarnating, being rich, being wealthy. If we, where we are now, are still doing all of these things with our money, right? Not using it wisely. Imagine those who have a lot more than us. It's not everyone, right? We all know of Bill Gates that uses his money very wisely, right? And others who also did. Chico Xavier, everything that he won, I think once he won really expensive watch, someone gave it to him, and then there was another person who needed food. She was like, "Oh, go and sell this," or something like that, something sales. So he gave the like a Rolex to someone, like, or a very poor person. So he did not care about that, and he did not seek to be rich, right? That was not his purpose. And how do we pass this test, right? um and it's simple. It's very easy to say, but not identifying ourselves with what we own, right? And a lot of us do that. I love clothes, and I browse online for clothes, and it's like, oh, I can see myself wearing this. I imagine in my head. And I'm not an impulsive shopper. I don't shop a lot, but I look at the clothes, like the shirt, like a month, and like try to look, how am I gonna wear this? And like I love it. Then I buy it. But I identify myself with my clothes, right? It's part of my personality, and I'm very attached to them. In fact, about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, because we are going to do the bazaar, the yard sale here, I opened my closet once and I started just pulling things, not looking. Fabrizio and we did each a huge bag like this. And that's because we had just done it like 2 months before that. I was like, and then what I decided to do was like, I need work clothes and clothes to go out and clothes to stay at home. So I did on my shelf like three different, like these are only going to be used. And then I even realized, was like, oh, I have a lot of jeans, a lot of pants, not enough shirts. Or like, but these are for work. Like, okay, now I know what I have, I know what I need, the basics, and I'm not doing that again. Lessons learned. But It's because I personally identified myself with what I own, with my clothes in this case. Fabrizio is the cars. Like he loves the cars. I remember Fabrizio don't get upset. He's but um we we had two cars at one point, and he loved it. The other one was his car and the other one was mine. So we bought a house and decided to get rid of one of the cars. And he was so sad, poor thing. It was like, "Are you sure we're doing this?" Because it was his car. He was like, "No, I know, but like, if he could go back, I think he would probably do differently because that's what he loves." And he had identified. I can't say this word today. Identify himself with what he owns too. We all do that, right? I'm not here judging him or judging. I'm judging myself because I can, but I know we all do that as humans incarnated and spirits, especially here in the US, because we have access to a lot of money, right? Um, and how again, how do we pass this test? By sharing, supporting, and supporting others with what we have, right? There are a lot of opportunities. We say that we don't have opportunities to help. Oh, because I'm in the US, it's different in Brazil, da da da, yada yada. But we have events here, and we have events everywhere, and that or there are charities in Brazil where you can wire money and help them. Charities that we all know and trust in your city, right? There's always a way to help. Um, and Emmanuel through Chico once said that the money, when it's in the hands of the good, becomes a seed of transformation. How beautiful is that, right? Yeah, it's very beautiful. Um, like your salary, your house, right? Your time. If you give that, if you keep it to yourselves, out to ourselves, that's not enough, right? They're gifts that we are given with a purpose. We have to start looking at everything around us this way, right? It's my house. How can I use it for others? We all know, especially here in the US, of people, we might have done it. People who come from Brazil, they don't have where to stay. Like, yeah, I'll help you for a month or two. Beautiful, right? Or we all probably had a friend who was in need of money too, and we went there and helped them, right? That's what God expects of us. Um, and as an example, and it's funny because right before I had this written down, and right before we came here, Fabrizio called his uncle, who's in the hospital. And he was there with a friend that I don't know. But I was like, I'm gonna share this story because I put this like this example here, something like this, right? Instead of using the money to buy like very expensive things, you're helping someone, a friend, to pay for a medical treatment, um, or buying blankets for a shelter. In Brazil, we have a lot of that, and support the Spiritist Center too. But with his uncle, he was telling me the story that um, he was with a friend there today in the hospital because he's sick. The his uncle is sick. He said that about 8 9 months ago, it was the opposite. This friend was sick at home, and he didn't want to go to the hospital. The friend didn't want to go to the hospital. It's an older guy, and he didn't want to go to the hospital. And then Fabrizio's uncle went and um, to visit him at his house, and he was like, he was very sick on bed and everything. He was like, "No, I'm not going to the hospital. I'm gonna have to stay there. I don't have money to pay for it." His uncle dragged him out of there. He was like, "I'm paying. You've been my friend the entire life since high school." And they're almost 80 years old. It's like, I'm paying for your bills. I have the money. That's what I have money for. So he took him and he stayed in the hospital. He paid for all the bills. And I thought that was beautiful, especially because now his uncle is sick. And who's there with him today? The guy that he helped a couple months ago. Yes, that is true. We never know. Like, I don't know how to say this in English. Mackenzie, maybe you can help me. Aqui se faz, aqui se paga. But whatever you do here, you pay here, or like, but also if you do good here, you can receive good back here too. Sometimes we only think about as spiritists um, of receiving after we die. Oh, I'm doing this for my spiritual life after I die. No, you're doing it for we live here. That's the only certainty that we know. It's like some people say that, well, you were born, if you're gonna die, but also certain of today, of this moment, right now. That's the only thing we know, right? We cannot only do thinking of the future. We have to think about now. What can I do now for my improvement now, right? Not for 10, 20, 30 years from now. If I do good now, it's going to reflect in my future, regardless. Um, so, just a friendly advice. Um, we can all, something that we can all practice. I like to bring a lot of ideas, but something we can do, practice, review our budget and see where is my money going, right? Because we can always find a path to helping others when we review our budget, when we review our time. How am I spending my time? On the phone a lot of times, all right, checking TikTok or Instagram. Do I have a time to call a friend? Um, it's also interesting because yesterday I learned that one of my uncles is sick. He has been sick for a couple of weeks and no one told me. It was like I could have been calling him. And I usually don't call my family like this. I don't my uncles, and maybe it's time for me to start doing that, right? Not only him because he's sick, but everyone else. We all need a word of comfort, right? A phone call. We all like when someone calls us. We should be the ones calling too. So we can review our budget. We can review our time, how we are using our time, and start just adding a couple of things that we can do here and there, so we don't become servants of money. And like we always say, we don't need million of dollars like in order, or do we want to wait until we have $1 million saved up so we can start helping others, right? Fantasizing that when I have this or that, it's when I'm gonna start helping. No, we $10 like in Brazil helps a lot. Even here, but especially in Brazil, it helps a lot. Um, and your time helps a lot more for your family and loved ones. Um, so good examples, right? Someone who keeps their garage full of unused items, just in case, but won't give it to a neighbor or someone in need. Also, putting ourselves there. So, Fabrizio and I, we're the examples of all of this today because we went through last week, about a week ago, we went through our basement because we're going to sell our house, put our house on the market, and the amount of stuff, that's what I'm going to call it, amount of things that we took out, we donated, we gave to friends, we gave to family. So, and it was there for God knows how long, right? There was so much. It's like, why am I doing this? For what? Do I like there were things there that I didn't even know I had that I bought. Same thing, right? Um, a very common one. Family that argues over inheritance. More than they grieve the loved ones who passed away. And again, can give my good example now. So my father and my mother already passed, and I promised myself that I would not fight over money with my brothers and sisters. Not because they laughed a lot, they didn't, but whenever like whatever the situation was at the time, I said, "It's fine. I don't care. Oh, but we all should take the same amount." I'm like, "Whatever you decide is good for me. I don't care." I loved my mom, and if I could have her here for longer, I would. I can't for now, but so the money is gonna help me, yes, but I I'm here to learn and support myself too and work and be independent. So I'm not gonna fight over this. And we never did. At least me, my sister, and my brother, we never did fight over this. Um, but those who fight over it and those who keep the garage full, it does show some signs of a spiritual. I'm gonna use this word and it's very strong, but spiritual poverty, right? We're still very poor and uh, spirits, and we're dressing ourselves with wealth, right? Or just like pretending that we're wealthy, but inside, what are we, right? Because we are lacking, we're missing everything that God actually wants from us, right? Um, and good examples of detachment and generosity. Um, a friend who shares times and attention with someone, right? That's lonely, a family that opens their home to someone in difficulty, or someone who very young, who doesn't have a lot, and shares their allowances to buy food for local charities. Those are good examples. Um, my mother always taught me to share with others, but not like that, not my allowance. But I've seen people around me doing it. Like they get $100 a month or a week or whatever. They're like, no, $20 I'm going to donate. And we have a lot more than that, and we don't donate. We don't. We're waiting for the 1 million, $2 million so we can start doing something. Um, so true wealth lies in the capacity to love, forgive, and to serve. Um, and what we have to ask ourselves, right, is how are we measuring our success? Is it by our earnings? Are we being useful or not? Are we educating our children to value things or to value people? It's a very important one that I put here because about a week or so ago, I on a Saturday I talked um, the about children's and youth, and how we should uh, talk more, to them, engage with them about the spiritual life, about Jesus, about God, and everything. Right? What values are we teaching them? Um, And again, this Spiritism teaches us that charity, it's just not money, right? Like I said, you can be a listening ear. You can just call someone, a friend, who needs help. I found out another day. This we have so many things I find out. You guys have no idea. But this weekend, one of we had a good friend broke up with her husband, right? And she was telling us like how much she was suffering and everything. And me and this other friend were both like, okay, we need to stop everything and help her, support her. We don't care about to talk about ourselves. That's not what she needs. She needs to be listened to. That's all. Um, we're gonna be there to support her, right? Yes. So that is a type of charity, right? Warm word, a helping hand. Um, so this shows us that you don't need money actually, right, to be generous, right? And it comes to show us, most importantly, that wealth doesn't come from money; it comes from our hearts, right? It comes from our souls, and it's something that we're still learning. We're gonna get there. Um, but it's something that we need to think more and more about. And a final question I want to leave to everyone, just to wrap up. I think I've never spoken this much, but which is good. But a final question that I wanted to leave is, what are we doing with our money and time, right? If we disincarnated tonight, what spiritual wealth would you take with you? We're talking about spiritual wealth. Everything that we know about Spiritism, about Jesus, of his teachings, we stop and think about what of Jesus' teachings am I bringing with me? I think that that has to be the question, right? Am I bringing a heart full of service? Have I been servicing and helping others, or a life of love shared with family and friends and everyone else I come across? Or a vault full of forgotten treasures, or a basement full of things, a garage filled with stuff? What am I bringing? Because those are not spiritual wealth, right? And we're not going to bring those with us. So we can choose between what we want to do, right? We have our freedoms, as Spiritism teaches us that we can do whatever we want. But I think that this message is here for us to reflect about it. And let's hope that we make good choices, better choices from now on. Thank you.
Yeah, Lucas is record breaker tonight. Yeah. Yep.
I always wrap up in 20 minutes.
Exactly. He is very quick. He brings like a short, very short and like straight to the point message. And this was very short and straight to the point message. It just had a lot to talk, I guess. And like, I mean, I spoke with him and he said, "No, I want to apologize in my talks." I said, "No, you say what you have to say. If you have more to say, you say. If you don't have, then you stop. Because well, what matters is the message. It's not the repetition of the message. It's the message.
Yes,
So
and I didn't say anything. Everything.
everything. I can imagine. I can imagine. Yeah, I know. So thank you. It was pretty good. So before we do our final prayer, so that we can go to passes, I'd like to remind everyone we were supposed to have a yard sale yesterday, but we decided to not have it yesterday because there was this thing with rain that could rain. It rained the whole Saturday. Today is raining again. Yesterday was supposed to rain at some time. We were not sure, and then there were other issues around in town. So we decided to postpone it. So whenever we know when it's going to be, we will let everyone know. So we have stuff there organized, but if you still have something to bring, you can bring so we can save and put to the yard sale later on. We all know that this is one of the things that help continue pay its rent, pay whatever we have to do. Um, to keep our doors open physically. So we have meetings on Sundays and Saturdays. They basically all of them are in Portuguese. Sorry, Mondays and Saturdays. Sundays, Mondays and Saturdays. This is the only one in English. All the other ones are in Portuguese, and they start at 7. On Wednesdays we have our study group, but starting from tomorrow, we're going to do a test drive, see if it works better to do it on Tuesdays instead of Wednesdays. There are two reasons for this. Historically, we've been doing this meeting for, I don't know, since the beginning of the center, like 21, 22 years ago. It's always been on Wednesdays. But in the past few years, we have a church up here, and their main meeting is on Wednesday nights. So we've been doing it. I mean, we kept doing it for a while, so people would come and so on. Now we're doing it mainly over the internet, but and then I mute the microphone. So, but when I need to talk, we will hear people like screaming or yelling or singing upstairs. It's kind of so on Tuesday there's nothing happening up there, so it will be quiet. So we're gonna do a test run, a test drive, see if it works, and we're gonna do it on Tuesdays from now on. If it works, we'll keep it on Tuesdays. You might see if you follow Instagram, it's the notice is still for Wednesday, but I didn't let Diogo know, so he still published on Wednesday. But for next week, we will be posting on Tuesdays. So we're gonna have to change our little recadinhos because it says Wednesday here, so that people. And we also like to remind everyone of our God in the home or gospel in the home, where we sit together with whoever is in the house at that time. We choose a day, we choose a time, and then we read a message from a book, from a book with good messages. It might be our daily bread. It can be the Gospel according to Spiritism. It can be the Bible. It can be any books. And remembering that it is to invite the good spirits to our houses, and so that we can also bring the gospel to our house. So like 15 minutes, we talk a little bit about what it is, what it means to me, so that we can reflect on the topics by ourselves. We read a little passage, read it out loud, which is easier. It helps us more. Studies show that when we read it only for ourselves, we don't understand as well as when we read it out loud. It is as if we are putting it out and it's coming back to us. So it studies show that it helps a lot to do that too. And in by Lucas mentioned it here, I guess a little bit. We're gonna have we have the bazaar every month or every 2 months, whenever it is. This month we're gonna have it will be on the last Sunday of the month. It will be on, is it 29, I think? 28 or 29. It's the last Sunday of the month, and it's gonna be about Festas Juninas, right? Will be the June celebrations in Brazil, full of there will be tables outside, and there will be delivery. Lucas and Diogo and Fabricio, and this time they're not gonna have a full bazaar with clothes and stuff, but there will be only food outside. So if you want to know more, just talk to Lucas about it. He will know what it is, how to buy it. They can deliver, and it also helps the group, but it helps other institutions, either here in the United States or back in Brazil. So they do this to help other groups and that are in need of help. And having said that, let's do our final prayer so that we can finish our transmission. Thank you to the ones I was watching online. I was watching here too, but I was watching online. So I was the one person, I guess, that was watching online too. But it's saved. We can listen to it later if we want. Lucas can be shy later on watching himself speak, right? He can be all red. You watch, right, Fabrice? Yeah. And our voices are so different, right, than what we hear when we. Oh my God, so funny. Yeah, so let's with this joy we share. Sorry, apologize. So with this joy, let's do our final prayer, thanking God, thanking Jesus, the good spirits that are always with us, bringing us this joy, this live audience, this enormous feeling of hope that we have when we are here amongst friends, by studying, listening, and thinking about our dear Master Jesus's message. So thank you, God, for your blessings. Bless our families, bless our friends, Bless those who don't wish us well as well, because they are also our brothers, our sisters. They are together with us. And bless ourselves so that we don't want to wish anyone harm in our lives. Make us feel and understand that your love is not only to be felt, but most importantly, it is to be shared to the world. May this moment be filled with love so that we go back to our houses, to our homes, to our work, to our lives, deeply touched by you and your presence in our lives, now and always. So be it. That's it. So now we're going to the passes, and thank you very much.